Hello my friends and welcome to this Red Gaming Tech video, myself and Marta, where I'm here as always with the latest news from the tech world in the last 24 or so hours. Today we are going to kick things off with yet more bad news for Huawei. Now I'm sure you guys have heard if you've at all been paying attention to even like the radio news lately, but Huawei are not really having the best time. Google banned Huawei phones from Google Apps, and various other companies have been just taking steps to make their life quite difficult. And this time it's quite a bad one. It's ARM, who you undoubtedly are familiar with. They are the provider of mobile chip IP for nearly all smartphones and tablets in the UK, and they have now revoked their license it gave to Huawei. Now this is according to an article from the BBC, which of course you can find linked in the description below this video. So, according to that very same article, ARM Holdings employees were told to suspend any interactions with Huawei, and also sent a note to the company saying, quote, due to an unfortunate situation, they were not allowed to provide support, deliver technology, whether software, code or other updates, engage in technical discussions, or otherwise discuss technical matters with Huawei, HiSilicon, or any of the other named entities. Now, for those of you wondering what impact this is actually going to have on Huawei, the answer is a huge one in theory, because, well, in every Huawei phone that exists, including the one that I myself actually own, it's found in every chip Huawei design and sells. So, yeah, not exactly great. So Huawei are probably going to scramble to find someone to outsource their chip manufacturing to, like Samsung or some other particular company. Obviously there's quite a few, but there's a big question mark, I would say, over what is actually going to happen with existing devices that are still sitting on shelves, and obviously chips currently being fabricated. It's tough to say exactly what's going to happen, to be honest with you. In theory, the absolute worst case scenario could come to life, and I'm sure you can figure out what that worst case is, and that Huawei could be facing an immediate sales ban of all of their devices that use ARM processors, which would be a huge blow to the company. I don't know if that's actually going to be the case. I don't know the legalities. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but it's at least on an option on the table, at least from what I can tell. So we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on this one, because that is still pretty bad, don't get me wrong. Even if they're allowed to sell the phones that have already been manufactured or sitting there in your local phone shop or whatever, even if they're allowed to do that, this is still another blow that they're suffering. Pretty much taking a pummeling right now, in honesty. So, with all that said, we're going to move on to a little bit of a better news now from Nvidia. So, unfortunately, all we have is a giant tease here from Nvidia, as they have revealed a very short teaser trailer which shows not really much at all, and it ends with the phrase, "Something super is coming." So whatever this is, I think it's a reasonable assumption that we can expect to see an announcement from them at Computex 2019, or possibly EU3, or maybe even both. So obviously the question is, what is it? Well, the fact that it's on the Nvidia GeForce channel is important. As you guys know, they do tend to keep their gaming and their quadros and all that separate for obvious reasons, so we can safely assume that it is a gaming card. Now, they have revealed Titan class cards on their GeForce channels before, but my feeling is this is either going to be the RTX Turing refresh that we talked about the other day with the faster memory speed, or it could even be the long-rumoured 2070 Ti. There's also a third option, and that could be it's just a price reduction in the complete Turing stack. Because obviously Navi is almost here. We are fully expecting to see AMD reveal exactly what's going on with Navi at Computex and of course at E3. So Nvidia are very keen to kind of hamper that reveal, that hype, as much as possible. And the best way they could do that, I would argue, is probably the 2070 Ti. But a price reduction across the whole Turing stack wouldn't exactly be a bad shout either. Of course, the Turing refresh would also be good, obviously not as powerful as a brand new card, but say they come out with that and a price reduction even, it's still getting Turing back in the conversation, when AMD, of course, want the conversation to be all about Navi and, of course, Ryzen as well. So, of course, Nvidia do like laptops and notebooks, blah 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 blah. They've also all those rumours about the Nvidia Shield gaming platform. But I think the three most likely options are the Turing refresh, 2070 Ti, or a price reduction across the board. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys, what you think it is. I mean, I'm basing this off no inside information. This is just my feeling, I guess my preference, that it's going to be the 2070 Ti, but it's highly possible that it's the refresh. In fact, it's probably more likely that it's the refresh, and I've just got my head stuck in the clouds, because we have heard, apart from those earlier rumours, we've heard nothing about 2070 Ti for ages, whereas of course we discussed that refresh not too long ago, so we would expect to see some sort of leaks or something going on in the industry if it's a 2070 Ti, but it's really possible that they've just done a really good job at squashing any leaks. But let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you think this something super actually is? But let's move on to our next topic. A bit of good news for anyone who has purchased a game on the Windows Store. Yes, all three of you. So essentially there's a new Windows update, Windows 10 19.03, and it now adds a variable refresh rate option into the settings menu itself. And the reason I say this is to do with Windows Store is because Windows Store games initially were not compatible with adaptive sync and had some issues with custom VSync settings. Now, Microsoft, in their defense, did give support for these settings, but it did have to be added by the developer on their end. So basically, this is just like umbrella support for variable refresh rate. It is now no longer the responsibility of a developer to actually add adaptive sync capabilities to their game. It's just going to be there, but obviously only if you're on the latest updates. So we're going to finish things up today with a topic that I've definitely discussed a lot, and it's to do with loot boxes. Now, I don't need to really preface this one much. You guys know the skinny at this point. This has been a topic for politics-wise across the world in various places ever since the whole loot box shenanigans with Star Wars Battlefront 2 really catapulted it into the sort of common consciousness, as it were. So what we have is Senator Josh Hawley, who is formally introducing his bill to ban the sale of loot boxes to children, and it has also been signed into support by two of his Democratic colleagues. So the actual act is called Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act, and if it is actually brought into law, would prohibit video game companies from selling loot boxes to anyone under the age of 18, and would also make it illegal for games aimed at children to have pay-to-win mechanics. So basically, if you are a game that's targeted at kids and you have either of those mechanics, you would be financially penalised. And he actually said, quote, "Only the addiction economy could produce a business model that relies on placing a casino in the hands of every child in America with the goal of getting them desperately hooked. I'm proud to introduce Islamic bipartisan legislation to end these exploitative practices." Now, of course, we have already seen such laws put into place in other places. For example, in Belgium, Nintendo had to pull two games that had loot boxes and microtransactions because they violated the loot box regulations in the country, and of course we've seen it discussed here in the UK. Unfortunately, no action was taken, and this is far from the first time, should I say, that this has been brought to the topic in the US. Now, obviously, the topic of whether or not loot boxes are gambling is definitely a bit of a divisive one. Some people don't think they are. I personally think they are gambling. Yes, you don't technically get any monetary value, but as I've said probably more times than I can count at this point, it doesn't matter. It still hits that same point in your brain, like when you push the shiny button on the fruit machine and you get £5 because you got, 3 cherries or whatever. It still hits that same point in your brain and creates that feeling of when you gamble for actual cash. And while we should obviously leave adults to make choices, I do think they do need to be regulated, because it has been basically like the Wild West. Like, I'm not saying they should be banned outright, but we shouldn't have had situations like Star Wars Battlefront 2, where you literally had to grind for a stupid amount of time or spend a ridiculous amount of money to get content that should have really arguably just been there, or been like a just straight up purchasable DLC, character pack or whatever. I mean, when it comes to kids, like, oh, whoa, when someone think of the children is a stupid argument a lot of the time, but in this case, I don't actually think it is, because you could argue it's extremely predatory to basically give gambling to kids and also make them spend a bunch of money on microtransactions and probably rack up a huge bill without even them realising what they're actually doing because, well, they're a child. And perhaps, yeah, they should have been left alone with their tablet or whatever, but that doesn't mean there's not responsibility on the side of the game developer as much as there's responsibility on the side of the parent. That doesn't erase the responsibility that is also, or should be present, should I say, on the other side. So I'm pleased to see this. Whether or not it'll actually come into fruition, I don't know. I just wish we'd see this here in the UK. We've really not seen anything. They've just basically said, nah, they're not gambling, you don't win anything, and I'm just like, okay, I don't agree, but I'm not in a position of power, so apparently that's it, really. And let me know your thoughts on this one, guys. As I said, this is a divisive topic. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. I don't really want to go too much into this because I've discussed this ad nauseum. I've already ranted about this for too long. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything I've discussed here today. You will also find an article by Paul on the Nvidia Super Teaser. It's his opinions on what we can expect from Nvidia at Computex or maybe E3 as well. So let me know your thoughts and opinions, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.